It's okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting in the McHenry County Zoning of Appeals, Board of Appeals to order. Today we are dealing with application number 2023-003. The applicant is Surya Powered LLC. The request is for a conditional use permit to allow for a commercial solar energy facility. The PIN number for this application is 13-25-400-015. The property consists of approximately 21.7 acres and is located on the west side of Ridgefield Road, approximately 3,370 feet north of the intersection of Ridgefield Road and US Route 14 in Dorr Township, Illinois. The petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. The publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated June 6, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The affidavit of posting was signed and the date posted was June 6, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The affidavit of mailing was signed and the date mailed was June 2, 2023. The survey has been checked against the petition, the legal notice, and the publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid, the endangered species consultation has been received, and the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. It is NRI number 23-002-4463. At this time, I'd like to have the members of the board introduce themselves with the township in which they reside, starting on my left.
Robert Kozin, Algonquin Township.
Donald Smolinski, Grafton Township.
I'm Linnea Kustra in Alden Township.
Vicki Gardner, Nunda Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
And our other board member is just calling me names. Hey, Charlie. Yes. Okay, so you won't be able to be here, you'll just have to read the transcript. Okay, all right, well, thank you. Okay. It's those Wednesdays. We normally meet on every Thursday, but with all these solar farms, we started on Wednesday and he forgot, so he's on his way to another meeting. So we have 5 members present today. So anyone who would be wanting to make a statement or ask a question, whether it's a member of the public or the petitioners themselves, will have to swear you in. So anyone who would like to speak today, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so for members of the public, how a zoning hearing works is that we will hear testimony from the petitioner, what their plan is. They might be having a presentation up here that you can follow along with. After they finish their presentation, then members of the board can ask them questions. And then staff might have questions for them as well. And then if any members of the public would like to ask them a question regarding the testimony they have given, you can come up to this microphone here on my right. You'll need to introduce yourself with your name and your street address where you live, and then you have 3 minutes to ask questions of the petitioner. When that is done, then staff will present their report to the board. The board can ask them questions, and then finally, if you have a comment, again, this is not a question, then your comments come at the end. And then again, you have 3 minutes each. You can come up to the microphone and have 3 minutes for your comments. So at this time, I would turn it over to the petitioner. Please introduce yourself, and then you can go ahead with any presentation.
Perfect. Okay. Akshay from Surya Powered, one of the project development managers.
Taj from Surya Powered, also one of the project development managers.
Awesome. So I'm going to start by giving a little bit of background about our company, going into what our proposal is, and then like you said, we can go through some questions. So we're Surya Powered, solar developer, community solar developer in the Chicagoland area. Oxford Stage, we are the project development managers. So what does Surya Power do? So we're end-to-end community solar project development company. So we find land, gauge the technical feasibility of that land, purchase or lease. Generally, 2 to 5 megawatts is our system sizes. So that's a minimum of 10 acres. Work with the utility companies, villages, counties to gain the approval and the interconnection agreement. And then we partner with an installation company in Illinois to complete the installation, energize the system, and then we provide long-term operations and management solutions for the projects. And then the benefits of community solar. So community solar, how I like to think about it, it's a decentralized solar system. So we buy or lease land, we put up a considerable amount of panels, all the energy goes into utility grid, and then we get credited, and we can actually sell those credits to anybody within that utility grid. The reason that this is beneficial is because not every home works for solar, so it has to be south-facing. There's a lot of requirements that really needed, and also it's a large initial cash outlay. So with this, it's a $0 investment. There's no restrictions, and the person who is subscribing to the community solar project gets a lower energy rate. And then some additional benefits is that there's an additional tax revenue. So we'll go through the tax revenue from currently versus the future tax revenue. And we'll kind of compare that, and then also it'll help the states, towns, and counties meet their ESG goals.
Tesh Patel, Development Manager, Surya Powered.
Can you
Sorry.
turn the mic towards you?
So for our Crystal Lake Solar Farm, our project size is 4.8 megawatts. The tracker type is a horizontal tracker, and the interconnecting utility is Commonwealth Edison. The annual power yield from this power plant will be 6.13 megawatt hours, which is enough to power 613 homes. So the project details of this project, the setbacks all are met by the county ordinance. The vegetation screening is outlined as per the county ordinance. We made sure it's 500 feet from any residence and right-of-way. Landscape detail has been provided. Drain tile impacts, we will conduct a drain tile survey prior to construction. We have executed an AMA. Stormwater management, site plan will comply with stormwater management ordinance. Stormwater management permit will be executed before the construction of the project. We will be, for grading, we will minimize as much as possible, limited to access road and minor slopes. And the tilts of the panels, the max tilt will be 12 feet and 4 feet off the ground, and there's no proposed lighting for this project. So the employment of the Crystal Lake Solar Farm, the construction of the facility will be approximately 20 to 30 employees over 4 to 6 months, which includes equipment operators, electricians, fence installers, laborers, and construction managers. We'll employ local workforce when possible. Once construction is complete, there will be 3 to 5 employees for operation and maintenance, upkeeping, landscaping, monitoring production, and solar equipment throughout the project life. So this slide gives a brief overview of the tax revenue from the project. So the standard assessment value per megawatt installed based on Public Act 100-0781, the project will generate about $532,837 in property tax revenue across the project life, which is 35 years, compared to the current $30,610, which is projected across 35 years. On the chart on the left is the taxing authority. Then if we get the taxing rate from those taxing authorities, the annual revenue from tax, and then the project life tax revenue. So this slide goes through noise pollution. So I wanted to kind of give a overview of how the noise would be like near our inverters and horizontal tracking system. So if you're 5 feet away from any of the equipment, you're going to receive 30 to 60 decibels of volume. 50 feet away from the equipment, you'll be receiving close to 50 decibels of volume and may even approach ambient sound levels. 500 feet, it's unlikely that you will be able to perceive any noise specifically from these systems at this distance, as other ambient sounds and factors will most likely dominate. So what does that really mean? 30 decibels that is in compared to whispering, a quiet library, or a soft conversation. 40 decibels, a quiet residential area, a refrigerator running, or background office noise. 50 decibels, moderate rainfall, a quiet suburban street, or a conversation at a normal level. And 60 decibels, normal conversation, an air conditioning unit at a moderate setting, or background noise in a restaurant. So relatively speaking, the noise of the inverters or the horizontal tracking system should be, it's very minimal. So this is our environmental reports for our Crystal Lake Solar Farm. We have completed EcoCat. The Illinois Natural Heritage Database shows the landing turtle may be in the vicinity of the project location, and they have provided actionable steps on how to mitigate impact during construction. This property is also in the Lake in the Hills FEN Class 3 groundwater area. So what does that mean? This refers to a specific designation used to classify and protect groundwater resources, particularly in relation to fens. Fens are a type of wetland characterized by peat soil and the presence of mineral-rich groundwater that feeds them. They're important ecosystems that support unique plant and animal species, and the EcoCat has recommended that we implement conditions outlined in the Illinois Pollinator Scorecard, and the screenshot below on the slide is the receipt from the IEPA that we've contacted them for any sort of consultation, or if there was any issues with this development in terms of the Class 3 groundwater area. So the next report, we've completed the NRI. The land evaluation score for the parcel is 88.97. The concerns regarding the impact of solar farm development on farmland, particularly prime farmland, can be alleviated because solar farms preserve the land of the future agricultural use. The NRI has also stated that we are within a sensitive aquifer recharge area, and we will be addressing that during our permitting phase, specifically the stormwater management plan. Areas between the panels and within the buffers be planted to a native prairie mix to help increase water filtration and reduce runoff from the site. Planting and maintenance plan to be developed by the county or with the county to ensure the noxious weeds are controlled and native plantings are properly installed and managed. So this is the compliance standards for conditional use. So we'll be going through a few questions from the application. So question number 1 would be, please describe how the conditional use meets all applicable standards of UDO 16.56, use standards, and 16.60, site development standards. Our parcel number 0309400-019 in Crystal Lake, Illinois is zoned as A1 and fits applicable standards of UDO 16.56 and 16.60 by the following. McHenry County 2030 Comprehensive Plan encourages the exploration efforts of alternative energy sources in the county. Without doing so, and I quote, the county will not be able to effectively compete in a global economy or offer the quality of life residents come to enjoy. And that source is from page 113 on the county board manual. And then the next part, a threatened and endangered species consultation from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources was completed prior to submitting the conditional use permit. The project will have little to no glare or noise during operation. The facility will have an 8-foot fence with a locked gate and no public access. Vegetation will also surround the perimeter of the fence as well. The facility will be consistently maintained, including any grass, trees, gravel roads, and overall landscape to keep a pleasing aesthetic for the surrounding properties and the public. All drainage, flood zones, wetlands, soil type, and category, utility studies, and overall engineering has been or will be reviewed prior to development. Also, access roads will be built for emergency service teams along the precautionary measures to mitigate all facility risk. Once constructed, there will be little to no traffic to the facility. Superior Power, which acts as an alternative energy supplier, will give residents of Crystal Lake the opportunity to enroll into the community supply program before releasing the waitlist to the rest of ComEd's jurisdiction. The development site has 1 wetland and no flood zones or no flood plains, and will comply with the stormwater management ordinance. Alongside this, a natural resource information report will be filed, reviewed, and considered prior to development. Is the conditional use compatible with the existing or planned future development of the area? McHenry County issues CUPs for parcels zoned as agriculture. Due to this parcel of land being zoned as agriculture and its enhanced surrounding electrical infrastructure, We believe that the proposed site acts as a suitable development opportunity for a solar farm. All parcels zoned as agriculture can apply for this type of development. Although this may be the case, qualities of the land and the lack of surrounding utility infrastructure creates hardships for feasible development. As the 2030 McHenry County Development Plan encourages alternative energy sources in the county, facilities like these cannot be regionally planned without extensive studies. After thorough research conducted by the team at Surya Power, we believe that this parcel acts as a feasible development opportunity and should be considered to help accomplish the 2030 development plan. Is the conditional use detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or the general welfare of the area? A solar farm that is properly designed and well maintained will have no adverse effects to public health, safety, morals, or comfort of the general welfare of the community. The proposed facility, in perspective, can power up to 613 homes annually without releasing harmful toxins. The development is in an area with low population density and low foot traffic. The facility will be fenced with a locked gate and additional vegetation surrounding the perimeter. A well-designed and maintained facility that is also protected from unauthorized access establishes safety and security of the general welfare and overall community. Will the conditional use be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the area? There are no adverse effects to the surrounding properties expected from a solar farm. The proposed site has no residential properties 500 feet away from the parcel. A community college is located behind the proposed facility and is not likely to create negative impacts to the property. Solar energy is a clean and renewable energy source that is widely recognized as an important contributor to sustainable energy future, and the public may view it as a positive feature in their community. Will the conditional use substantially diminish and impair property value in the area? It is not expected that the solar farm would substantially diminish or impair property values in the area. According to the results of SEIA, quoting from this study, examining property values in states across the United States demonstrates that large-scale solar arrays often have no measurable impact on value of the adjacent properties, and in some cases may have positive effects. That's from SEIA in a 2019 release, and the source is provided. Are adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities provided? The proposed solar farm will require adequate utilities necessary to supply energy into the local utility grid. To support the construction, maintenance, and logistics of building the facility, access roads will be built to operate the facility safely and efficiently. During the construction phase, measures will be taken to manage stormwater runoff to protect the surrounding environment while also complying to local regulations. All specifications are either provided or will be built to manage the facility. Has the conditional use operation been designed to provide ingress and egress to minimize traffic congestion and hazard on the public streets? We have considered the following measures to mitigate potential traffic to the development site. We identified over 500 potential sites and chose this location, Crystal Lake, due to the surrounding road network. The proposed site is accessible via Ridgefield Road, and our presence will not generate any additional traffic that could cause congestion or safety concerns. Once the facility is constructed, operations and management plan consists of 24/7 remote monitoring with quarterly visits. Therefore, the foot traffic after construction will be zero. During construction, we plan on building a gravel road to assist with the traffic volume and vehicle types entering the vicinity. We will also be engaging with the local community and address any concerns they may have as we construct the facility. This includes ample notice prior to construction and any major maintenance activities. Lastly, will the conditional use conform to the applicable standards of the underlying zoning district? Yes, our parcel 1325-400-015 is zoned as A1, which according to the zoning district use chart is allowed with a conditional use permit. This slide shows some of the options for the vegetation and planting plan for our project. We identified 6 different options. This was changed from our past projects because the board liked to see seasonal plants all throughout the year rather than just plants that grow in the summer and not during the winter. So we wanted to ensure that they're screening all throughout the year. This is a diagram that shows the plat of dedication and right-of-way setback. So as of right now, the right-of-way is not dedicated or recorded with the county. So once we purchase the property, we will dedicate that right-of-way and create a plat of dedication. And we've also provided a new plat of survey as well. As of now, the blue line over there is the current property line, which is 30 feet from the center line of the road. Once we provide that dedication, we'll be providing an additional 25-foot setback, so that the line right underneath the blue line is our new property line. So that'll give us a 55-foot setback from the center line of Richfield Road. From there, our new property line and the vegetation buffer will be 25 feet. From the vegetation buffer to the fencing, about 5 feet, and then from the fencing to when the posts start or the panels start will be another 20 feet. So that'll be 50-foot setback from the property line. So in total, from the center line of the road, we're looking at 105 feet total.
Now we're going to go through our site plan. So the right-of-way has already been updated on our site plan, but just high level, we have 2 transformers with 2 different two different pads, 26 inverters, and 8,796 modules. These are 550 watt bifacial modules. Kim, can you go to this site plan?
This thing?
Yeah,
Is it in the slides or just the one that you said?
just the one they sent out, really. Yeah. Perfect, yep, and then one more page down. So this is our site plan right now. I'm going to start from the left and then I can work my way over to the right. So on the left, it basically shows our property boundary. Let me pull it up on my end as well. So property boundary, we have an 8-foot fixed farm, not fence, around the whole perimeter of the property. And then 50-foot setbacks from the property boundary. We have pathways for fire district access, and we just got a comment from the Crystal Lake Village requesting some additional items for their fire department, so we'll have to take those into account when we get further along the process. These are horizontal solar tracker arrays. And then moving to the right, we have our two pads which hold our transformers, and we have an access road, which is right now it's a 24-foot wide site access gravel road, which is typical on our projects. And then on Ridgefield we have a double gate with the access road, which comes from Ridgefield. On the north side, we're actually running, so we did a wetland delineation report and found that previously there was a wetland which is identified off property. From that wetland delineation report, we found one wetland on property, so we currently have a setback from that wetland of 40 feet, and that's why our road goes that way. But we have that setback, and then our utility poles are all on our property, not in the right of way, and then we're going to be connecting to an existing utility pole on Ridgefield Road. There's already a feeder over there. Yeah, I think that was everything. Oh, the vegetation buffer. We also have a vegetation buffer 500 feet from the right of way, and there's also a home on the north side, which we added an additional vegetation buffer for that home for additional screening. Yep. And then our impervious calculation. So currently this is a 21.7 acre parcel. Right now, with the access roads, equipment pads, fence posts, it is a 0.29 acres of impervious calculation. So that's basically a 1.33% impervious calculation right now. I think we can go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so township comments. So we did receive the letter from Crystal Lake this morning. This is just from stuff that we know where our property is located. So our property is located in the Crystal Lake watershed. So what is the Crystal Lake watershed? Well, it's an area around Crystal Lake that drains to the lake. It's called the Crystal Lake watershed. The city has special requirements for and to regulate the development and land use in that watershed. And it's in order to protect the quality and quantity of the water that reaches the lake. So why is it important? It's to protect the quality and quantity of the water that reaches the lake. Next slide. So where is the Crystal Lake watershed? So we kind of took a screenshot. This is the total area of the watershed. It goes more south, but we've outlined our parcel and where it is located. So it is within that watershed limits. And then in terms of developing on a watershed, so Crystal Lake actually has an analysis calculator that we can use to figure out what kind of requirements are needed for development in this watershed. So we use the simple analysis calculator that they provided online because we have no substantial grading or removal of brush, because this is just a flat 21.7 acre lot right now. And what we did basically in this calculator was we entered the total lot area in square feet. We got that directly from our platted survey, so that's 956,998 square feet. The existing impervious area in square feet is 0, and then our proposed impervious area added in square feet is 12,440, and that comes from our our posts, fencing, access roads, and that equals the 12,440. So our total impervious surface is the maximum they're allowing is 50%. We have 1.3% right now, and the increase in impervious, the maximum they're allowing is 1.5% without having stormwater storage. But because ours is 1.3, that's why it says no further action is required, and we're okay with our total impervious surface. In terms of next steps, we have contacted the Crystal Lake engineers about this issue. We're going to be working with them, or about this development. We're going to be working with them to follow all of their ordinances. So we're going to follow the Crystal Lake Watershed Stormwater Management Program Implementation Plan. If applicable, we provided the link for that. We're going to follow the Crystal Lake Watershed Stormwater Management Design Manual, if applicable. And we'll also follow the regulations on the Crystal Lake Stormwater Management Ordinance, if applicable. And we'll implement a watershed benefit measure if they require that as well. And then we'll incorporate specific seed mixes to assist with filtration and draining, if applicable as well. Crystal Lake has outlined some of those seed mixes to help with that filtration and draining. And then just general development considerations. So we're going to have a road use agreement to demonstrate the responsibility of repairing potential damaged roads due to construction of our solar farm. We will repair any drain tiles due to the construction of the Crystal Lake Solar Farm, and that's from the AMA. We'll do a stormwater management plan to mitigate the increase in runoff. We'll have a full vegetation and management plan to be integrated with the facilities operations management plan to meet the native vegetation and performance standards outlined by the county. We'll have a soil erosion and sediment control plan, the wetland delineation report, which we've already completed, the drain tile survey, which will be completed prior to construction, and then Lake in the Hills, then Class 3 groundwater area. We already have the recommendation from the NRI or the EcoCat to implement conditions outlined in the Illinois Pollinator Friendly Scorecard. So we'll take a look at that as well. And then we are within a sensitive aquifer recharge area, and this will be addressed in the stormwater management plan. That's all we have for the presentation.
Okay, just a couple things, and it's been happening a lot when people go through the conditional use standards, because there's 8 on the one page, but you flip it over, there's 2 more. So I want you to address the last 2 that you didn't address. Number 9 is that the conditional use is reasonably in the interest of public welfare. And these are found on page 5, page 5 of our staff report. It'll be number 9 and 10.
Do you mind repeating that question?
Sure. That the conditional use is reasonably in the interest of the public welfare.
Sure. Yep. So this is solar farm. It's community solar farm as well. We're going to be opening up the subscribers to the community first of Crystal Lake and then McHenry County. So it will be in the interest of the public welfare.
And number 10, I think you've answered, but I'm just going to give it to you so that we get it finalized. That adequate measures will be taken to provide protection to groundwater recharge and groundwater quality.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, we'll be implementing the recommendations from the Illinois Pollinator Scorecard, and that also will be addressed in the stormwater management plan.
Okay, this time we'll take questions from the board, starting on my left, Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can we just start, just for clarification, the land uses in the immediate area? I don't know which exhibit that would be.
Yeah, if we go to the site plot, it should be the second.
Oh, do you want to use this?
Or we can use that too, yeah. Yeah, that's perfect.
For example, on a railroad line, how close, or do you know, in proximity to, this would be, I believe,
Is that to the north,
it's to
northeast
the
of Richfield?
East.
No. I'm not sure the proximity, maybe 500 feet. I'm
But
not
it
sure.
is illustrated on your, on that illustration there.
It's on our site plan, but we didn't put the distance in between. It is on our site plan right now.
And then you are within an area of a cemetery, Richfield Cemetery, is that correct?
Correct. I believe this Richfield Cemetery is to the south.
In terms of the, do you have the general quantity or the acreage of the dedicated property for the right-of-way?
We don't know the exact acreage that we'd be giving to the county, but we know it's a additional 25-foot setback from the frontage of the property.
So if you just did a length times width, that would come out to what kind of square feet?
I don't have the calculations in front of me, but we can provide that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the frontage is.
Again, if both of you are speaking, you're going to have to identify
sorry.
yourself when you start
Yeah.
to speak for the benefit of the transcript.
The material of the posts that are anchoring the solar panels, what material are those? What are they, composition?
It usually galvanized steel, but it really depends on it's usually helical piles. Galvanized steel depends on what the topography calls for, though.
So something similar to like what is holding up a guardrail on the roadside?
Yeah.
The ambient sound levels, if we can go to that, just to confirm you're using the CPS modular inverters,
CPS 125 module inverters. Yep.
and the product sheet says that the noise level on that is less than 65 dB.
That is the general average. It's hard to get an exact for the manufacturer, but that's just a general average for how loud the inverters are.
Right, and the inverters only work sunrise to sunset?
I guess technically they work all the time, but it's only when like electrons are actually hitting the panel. So
So when the sun is down, but
yeah, there won't be any noise.
No.
It'll be pretty silent.
and then it's also the noise level is measured at a conversion of 77 degrees, so I take it that the colder it is, the less noise travels from the site.
Correct.
Do you have any subscribers yet lined up, or where do you see that in your scheme?
Yeah, so currently we don't have any subscribers set up yet. We usually do the conditional use permit process. We've actually already done our interconnection agreement with the utility company. So after we get the conditional use permit, it's usually about 8 months or a year until we are actually going to construction. So that's when we start looking for our subscribers.
In your site search with the comment facility, was there any other properties in the area that fulfilled your requirements or is on your potential future list?
Yeah, there's McHenry County has a good electrical infrastructure, A1 industrial zoning districts. So we do have a few more properties that we're looking at within McHenry County. We actually have the Hebron property that we came through about a month ago, and I think we got the conditional use permit granted last night.
I have no further questions, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Smolinski.
Yes, could we put the taxing figure slide up again, please? Okay, that shows 23,000 annually and 533 approximately over 35 years, is that correct?
That's correct, to our estimates.
I did the math on it, and it looks like we're losing money there.
So every year, we have accumulated depreciation that we can reduce the annual revenue by. We can only do it to 70%, so that's why the number is not 22,000 every single year. But the current number is $300, or I think it was 600. So that 30,610 is across 35 years. It's not an annual number right
I
now.
mean, the 23,000.
Yeah, so the 23,000 is annual. The
Yes.
30,000 that we're comparing it to is for the full 35 years
Correct.
of current.
And as I see it, at 23, even if the revenue does not go up at all, 705,000. So going from 705 over 35 years to 532, that's going down, it's going in the wrong direction.
No, sorry, to clarify, that 30,610 is across 35 years for the current. So currently it's like $600 annually.
No,
So-
you said annual revenue, your total is 23,097.
Yes.
Okay. Add that times 35, I come up with 705,000.
Yeah. It's because we can take accumulated depreciation, so it reduces
Okay,
that.
so we're not arguing about the numbers really, we're just arguing about the benefit. There is no tax benefit to your project there, to the community. Is
Well,
that
no,
correct?
compared to the current use, currently you guys would get 30,610 across 35 years. With our project, you get 532,000.
Wait, what's this 30,000? Where did you come up, where's that?
That's in the first square.
So yeah, on the first slide there, it says our projected 35 years is 532,000 compared to the current 30,610 projected across 35 years. So ag land right now, the value is on the property tax is only like $600 annually. Ours will be something close to 23, 20, it depends on the year.
Okay, so what's the 23,000? I'm confused.
So that's first year. First year is 23.
First year after your build out. Okay.
And just to clarify, that 30,610 that would be cumulative if it stayed as it is now over the course of 35 years. That would be the total tax revenue over that 35 years, that $30,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. The next question I have is, what's the type of vegetation you'll be using in your buffer?
So we have the Crystal Lake seed mix, the specific seed mixes. They have, because it's in the watershed, we'll likely work with Crystal Lake on that, or if the county has a recommendation. Right now, we haven't identified that, but we can get back to you on the specific seed mixes.
The vegetative buffer, I'm not sure I'm asking the question correctly. What type of plantings will be in the buffer, not seeds?
Okay.
Tash Patel, Development Manager, Surrey Power. So we proposed 6 different types of vegetation that we could potentially use. We haven't identified exactly which ones we will use. That's something we want to work with the county with. We just wanted to communicate that we want to use seasonal plants where the screening is alive throughout the whole year, not only the summer.
Right.
But that exact vegetation isn't yet identified.
And to what height will they be estimated to be grown to?
So that information I do not have off the top of my head, but we could provide that.
Will it screen the fence?
We believe so, yes.
hopefully exceeded. Okay, that's all the questions I have, thank you.
Sure. Ms. Gardner?
Thank you. I just have a few questions. You mentioned that you would have a total of 3 to 5 employees on the site once it's built out, is that correct?
That's what we're expecting, yes.
Okay, now, is that daily, is that as needed, or throughout the year, or what?
So it's as needed.
Okay.
Most likely every quarter. It's not only for corrective maintenance from our facility, it could also be for vegetation, mowing, general maintenance of the facility too. So it's hard to exactly say when, but it will be at minimum, I believe, every quarter.
Okay, so it's not gonna be every day?
No, not every day.
Okay, are you planning on having any security cameras on the site?
As of right now, no.
Okay, and there's no lighting, right?
No lighting proposed.
Okay. Is the property now being farmed?
Currently, yes.
Okay. So going back to the noise emitted by this equipment, it's the inverters and the transformers that create the noise? And
Yes.
is it the actual panels themselves as they're tilting?
Yes, so in aggregate, all three products of the facility we've outlined as the general noise you'll probably hear based on how far you are from it.
Okay. And how close are the transformers to, like, the nearest resident?
There are no residents 500 feet from.
More than 500
More than,
feet?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, more than 500 feet.
Okay. So they should not be bothered at all by this. In fact, they may not even hear it? Okay.
You need to answer. You can't just nod your
Oh,
head.
okay, sorry. Yes, yeah, they likely won't be affected.
Couldn't hear you rattling there. Okay, so it looks to me as if you're not really, on this site, you don't have any encroachments on different properties or easements or rights-of-way or anything like that. You seem to be perfectly clear all the way around, except for that one wetland area, right?
There's a wetland and a flood zone, but yeah, other than that, it's within a larger parcel.
Okay, and you seem to have steered clear of both of those.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
our parcel's a little out. There is one wetland which was identified, but it's a smaller wetland.
Yeah, okay. Oops, I lost this one. Now, did you see the letter from Crystal Lake?
Yeah, so we just got it right before this meeting. We had a chance to review it, not fully yet though, but we saw that
Okay.
they were requesting some additional,
Conditions.
yeah, some additional
Yeah.
conditions.
And
yeah.
did you get a look at those conditions? I'll read them to everybody so that everybody knows what we're talking about. Number 1, inspection manholes shall be placed on the property line at the upstream and downstream ends of the main drain tile that runs directly through the property. 2, the entire project site shall be surrounded with landscape and a fabric-wrapped chain link fence, which would screen the property from any roadways or public driveways. Number 3, one 10-foot wide drive shall provide access around the entire site that can support fire apparatus. Okay, now, are you in agreement with these conditions? Why or why not?
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to really look through it. I think the vegetation buffer may be something that we'd like to dig in a little bit more, because it seems like what we have right now is the ample amount, 500 feet from the right-of-way plus the residence.
Okay, well, they weren't talking about a vegetation buffer at all. They were talking about a drive all the way around
Yeah.
the project, which you basically, do you have that on your site plan? You just have a line through it, is that correct? A drive through it?
Correct. Currently, we don't have that on our site plan. I think the only thing we'd have to look at is the impervious calculation. So right now, we'd stay under 1.3%. If we were to add a 10-foot around the whole perimeter of the property, we likely would have a higher.
You'd be over.
We'd be over, so
Yeah.
we may have to do some engineering to.
Do you
figure that.
see that, should there be, let's say that several panels on the far northwest corner suddenly catch on fire, okay? Would the fire department have a problem reaching those with the drive that you have planned already?
Tesh Patel, Development Manager, Surrey Fire. We're still consulting with the fire district. We'll take their comments and redesign as needed. If that case were to occur and if they see that is probable to happen, yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the fence, the fabric wrapped fence, I'm kind of, you know, when I read that, I was thinking if, but I'm going to leave that open for now. There may be people in the audience that might have opinions on a fabric wrapped fence or not. And then the 10-foot wide drive around it, we already talked about that. Oh, the inspection manholes. Is that something that you see as feasible?
So we just received these comments in the morning. We'd have to talk to our team to make sure everything's good to go on our end, but we're very much willing to work with Crystal Lake to, you know, address those concerns.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're obviously willing to work with them on their watershed plan?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Schnabel.
Yes, good afternoon, thank you. When you were laying out your plans earlier, did you make a reference to comments from the fire department, or did I misunderstand that?
So we're still in communication with them. We could change parts of the design of the facility based on what they think we should be doing. So hopefully that answers your question.
Have they given you any guidance so far at all?
I'd have to check with my team, but I believe we might have received a few comments, and we are going to be addressing those.
What brought it to my mind was you have an unusual pathway right down the middle, specifically designated for fire department. I just wondered if they asked for that to be designed that way.
Absolutely. It has to be 24 feet wide, and it might have to be paved as well, based on the load of their largest vehicle size. We just need something to show that the road is going to be going to the inverter pads for shut-off purposes if there were to be some emergency situation.
Understood. Lastly, your 24-foot wide gravel road, it's very difficult to read this topographical map that's shown on the front page of the staff report. At least I have trouble delineating. I see 920 feet near where that round depressed wet area is. If you put the driveway in along that fence line next to that area and you go south to the middle of the lot, I assume that area is higher. The property would be higher than it would be where the driveway is or where the low spot is. Okay, that's my first question. So it sounds like it's going to drain downhill over the driveway or in some manner down towards that low wet spot, correct?
Based on, yeah, correct, based on that.
Okay, this is my main question then. If you put that driveway in, are you going to excavate topsoil out for that driveway so that you can then go in, fill with gravel, and maintain a level surface with the surrounding topsoil? Or are you going to build on top of the ground?
So that I'd have to speak with my team on how they propose on building that, or the series of steps taken to build that. I don't have an answer for that.
My only concern is that it's logical if you build the driveway above ground and it's draining one way, it's got to go across the driveway. You have a 24-foot dam that you're building. I assume you need some culvert pipes or drainage of some kind. So I was just curious. So we don't know an answer to that right now. That's the only thing I have for right now. Please take it away.
Okay, I just have a few questions. You had a slide on property values, and you cited something called SEIA, but I didn't see what that stood for. If you go back to that slide.
It's an Upshur Surya Powered. It's an acronym. I believe it's Solar Energy Institute, but I can't remember the name completely. It should be on
Is
13.
that, let's let Kim bring it up. Okay, yes, it says SEIA 2019. So this is something done by the solar industry, or is this an independent study done by someone outside the industry?
I don't know what their affiliation is to the solar industry. I can get back to you on that. But I know they have done reports for solar industry before.
Okay, that would be good. Then I had a question about the Lake in the Hills Fen groundwater recharge area, and I'm glad that you brought that up and pointed that out in your addressing conditional use questions. Is there anybody that you talked to regarding that, or is it just because it came up in the Soil and Water Conservation District, the NRI report?
So we're planning on speaking with Crystal Lake, the Village of Crystal Lake, to get a better understanding of how to develop on this type of property. But you are correct, this has come up on the
Additionally, Upshur from Surrey Powered. Additionally, it came up on the permit because it's in a Class 3 Special Resource Area Overlay District. We reached out to the IEPA to get their comments, which is what the screenshot on slide, I believe 10 is. But it just shows that they didn't have any additional concerns for this development or any additional requirements for us. But we reached out to the IEPA on this.
Great, I appreciate that, thank you. I have no other questions. Does staff have any questions?
I just had one, unless I missed this. For the impervious surface calculations, were you including the posts themselves? That was included in the 1.3%?
Correct, yeah, the posts were included in that calculation. I think the posts were 0.79 square feet each.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that was included in the calculation.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, so this is time for the public. If you have any questions based on his testimony for him, again, your time for comments on this would come at a later time, but if you have any questions, please come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, Mark Hanson. I own the property to the north of the property in question, and I do have some questions. You said how many units total panels? 8796, correct? I think that's no.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second, I'm just gonna just confirm. Yeah, 8796.
Okay, and you were talking about noise. You're talking 30 to 60 decibels. What is that? Per panel, per unit, per installation?
Yeah, that's for the overall, like everything together, it's gonna be 30 to 60 decibels. So each panel won't, or inverter won't be 30 to 60.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on your toes, but isn't colder air, when it's more dense, doesn't it transfer sound better? Or am I wrong on that? Warmer air doesn't transfer as well because the air is less dense. So that's all I was questioning. If I got that right, I'm thinking, I used to race motorcycles and we had to deal with jetting and density of air and so forth, and I was just curious about that. You know, what's the actual use time of these things? Are they good for 30 years, 35, 40, 50? What's a panel good for before it's junk?
Yeah, so the warranties generally last around 25 to 30 years, but there have been field tests and panels have gone for 50 plus years.
Okay. And then, if you guys are all done and solar energy goes the other way and nobody wants it anymore, who cleans all this up?
So with
And what guarantees are there?
Yeah, with the AMA that we signed with the Department of Agriculture, we have to decommission the system.
Including removal of everything?
yeah, everything, and then we have to put it back to the original state,
Got it,
which is
okay.
agriculture.
Right. What's the hail resistance on these panels?
I don't have.
Do you have
the-
any idea? Are we talking 3/4, ½ inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch? I mean, what's the resistance on that? Because there's a lot of nasties inside your panel, cadmium and lead, some other things we don't want in the ground, washing out into the ground, my ground. And what is the Lake in the Hill, can somebody clarify that Lake in the Hill fen? What is the bearing with Lake in the Hills? Is that just a term for an agency in the county?
It's a specific groundwater area that I mentioned to him, and so it has, that's why he had to, well, you can answer it maybe based on what you found, who you had to contact.
Yeah.
'Cause that's very far south of us.
Yeah, that's what they called it, the Lake in the Hills Fen Ground 3.
Okay, so it's a term rather than.
It is, I think it is part of Lake in the Hills, but that's what they had told us, and we contacted IEPA for that issue though.
Has anybody looked at the ag value or ethanol value of the production at 22 acres versus the solar production? I mean, what's more advantageous? Dave farming the place or you making electricity?
It's economic value.
Yeah.
I
Has anybody done those kind of comparisons? I'm assuming not, but.
I'm sure they have them. I'm not sure what is currently being farmed. If I had to guess, I would say energy is worth more, but I wouldn't.
Okay,
wouldn't say
just,
that.
Your time is up, sir.
okay, thanks.
Does anyone else have a question?
He's taller than me. He's my husband. My name is Mabel Hansen. I'm also a neighbor. And just have one question. Without your heart, tell me, do you think our
Into
life,
the microphone, please.
do you think our life is going to change in any bit having this solar pole? Think twice, because we are in the countryside, so we have some kind of freedom there. Tell me, because if that is the case, it would be nice to have it right in. Just saying. I guess you don't live in the countryside, so you don't know what the
No,
advantages are.
you just have to ask the question. Can you clarify the question?
The clarified question is, because I believe they're saying that is nobody living in 500 feet. We are closer than that. Have you ever measured the length where we live? I mean, this is a pond. What I'm saying is, if we are closer than 500 feet,
Are you saying where you live is
Yes.
closer than 500
Yes.
feet?
you know,
No.
No.
It's about 1,000 feet to our well and about 1,000 to our house.
okay.
Maybe slightly less, maybe 925, 950.
Okay, I just want to say, if you can say that nothing
And
changed.
again, this is not for your giving a
Just
statement or
question.
your opinion.
No,
This
I'm
is only a
asking
question.
if the fact that they are going to rezone in, anything is going to change as neighbors.
So the question is anything in your life going to change as neighbors to this facility because of this installation?
Yeah,
Okay.
We've kind of talked about the noise concerns. There's visual screening, so you won't see anything. Just based on our opinion, no, I don't think you'll have any adjustments or anything that will change.
okay, perfect.
Yeah, we do try to take into account all the neighbors.
And what you're going to use to maintain or kill the vegetation?
That we're going to identify in the long-term plan for operations and maintenance, so we don't know that right now, but it will be maintained, and we're going to use the pollinator-friendly scorecard too, as well.
It would be fair enough to say that you don't have all the answers, and if this project goes ahead, things will be determined later. Like we go with,
Well, I can tell you that the staff can even confirm, like some of our policies that the county has, that they will have to work out with the county in order to get their building permit.
okay, thank you, I appreciate it, because we came here, we have a presentation, we feel like we have 3 minutes, hurry up and memorize everything that has been said. We feel like this, I'm sorry. Thank you.
We can clarify that. The staff can clarify that in her report. Does anyone else have a question?
Dave Behrens, some of you may know me. I'm a property owner immediately to the south. I'm a farmer in the Ridgefield, Crystal Lake, Woodstock area. You bring up points about the watershed. You bring up points that's not in the floodplain. If I could have just a couple extra minutes, I will show you a picture looking from this point to the south regarding what happens when you get about a 4-inch rain.
Question here?
You have to show a question now. You can show that later, but right
Okay.
now you're just asking a question.
How can you say that it's not in a floodplain when it is in a floodplain? And what are you going to do with the runoff with the water that comes from here? Are you going to build retention ponds? I mean, you're going to flood me out. All the water from up here drains this way and comes this way. I mean,
A question you want to answer regarding,
Can you repeat?
what are you going to do? Are you going to build retention ponds or?
Currently,
I mean,
no,
what-
we're not gonna build we're not, if we're required to build a retention pond, we will. And to go back to your floodplain question, we had a wetland delineation expert, which was approved by McHenry County, go out on the land and confirm.
Now you realize that there's a main drain tile that drains all of Ridgefield and the property to the north of the railroad tracks. Flows right through here, right through the middle of this, down through here. It feeds the Crystal Lake itself. I mean,
is this a question?
what I'm saying is, what are we gonna do to protect that tile?
So in our AMA that we signed, we have to repair all those drain tiles if we were to break them during construction. So the drain tiles should not be a concern.
Okay, my question is, what are you gonna do with the runoff from all of this? Because we all know solar panels are, how wide?
5 feet,
5 feet by what?
6 feet.
So it's 30 square foot per panel. Multiply that times 8,500. You know, we all know that water hits here, it's going to have to flow through here. So the amount of water is going to be increased, and that eventually is all going to run down. And, I mean,
Flood us out.
you're just going to flood us out. You know?
They will,
Question.
you have a question for him?
So are you going to build retention ponds?
There's a stormwater management plan that we will address all those concerns. We have to do that with.
Question two, you say you're going to have vegetative and native species plants. I farm the land right next door. What are we going to do to keep your plants from going to seed and getting the seed disposed in my fields of noxious weeds, or a weed that is not utilized in that we have to fight to run a farm with?
There are setbacks for that, and we'd be using the specific seed mix from Crystal Lake, whatever their requirement.
Yes, I'm out of time, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes, sir. Or ma'am, whoever wants to go first.
I'm Ingrid Hansen Pop and own the land, the dirt that you're looking at. And my only question was.
And your address, ma'am?
My own address is 639, Cherrywood Drive in Waterford, Wisconsin. So you mentioned that the amount of solar generated could power 613 homes a year? Or,
Yeah, that's an annual figure.
anyway, that's all I know. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, folks. Jim Heisler, 131 Baldwin, downstream. This is such a special area. I have a couple of questions, folks. I really think that this project being in a special area is a disastrous effect on the property values downstream, if not in the adjacent area. Have you done a study on what that might mean economically? And the other question I have is, have you investigated the nothing left over gravel pit areas in this county, which there are many, to better locate with less problem and probably a cheaper installation than what you're looking at now? Thanks.
So I guess to address the first question, what was it?
Go right ahead.
Sorry, do you mind repeating it? Apologies. I remember your second
You want me to
one.
be over here?
Just the first one, if you don't mind.
First of all, I'd like to stand next to you because I have a hard time hearing.
Take the mic with you.
And these mics,
Take
and
the
you
mic.
guys
Take the mic
don't
with
help me too well.
Take the
I
mic
think you
with
just need
you.
to speak into the mic.
I'll give it a try.
Just take it out of there and take it with you. You can stand right
Yeah.
next to you.
Or you guys just speak up a little bit more, it would be better
Sure,
for
no problem.
everybody's benefit.
No problem.
And not to mention, seeing this stuff is marginal. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, can you repeat that first question again?
We're
I got
talking
you
about
sideways.
property values downstream.
Oh, property values. down.
Have you investigated or researched the impact, because this is a special area, it's a watershed, not just plain A1, but it's a watershed A1. Have you investigated or the impact on the property values downstream, if not in the adjacent area?
Yeah, so on slide 13, we quoted that article, which examines property values across the United States.
No, I mean in this county.
We haven't done a specific study in this county,
I
but
think
that is.
I think that, along with others, should postpone this question today until several other questions are answered. I'm done. Thanks.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay, we'll move on to the staff report, Kim. Maybe Kim, in your report, if you could summarize some of the questions that have been asked.
Sure. So I'll just start with that. So I know a lot of the concerns have been with the drainage, stormwater, the landscaping. At the time of permitting, if this is approved prior to issuance of a building permit, we will require the stormwater management permit to be issued and adhered to. They will be required to submit a drain tile survey, and they have already provided a wetland delineation. A landscape maintenance plan will be required as well, so we will take a look as staff and make sure that everything complies with the native plantings and the, all of the standards of the pollinators, everything that is required. All of that will be required to be approved before we will issue a building permit for construction, and then staff will conduct annual inspections of the site to make sure that the vegetation is being kept up with and everything is being adhered to as far as the conditions of the conditional use permit. As far as the siting of this location, it is zoned A1 Agriculture District, which is one of the districts that allows for a solar farm with a conditional use permit. Other than the few residential sites that were outlined, this is a mainly there are industrial and office uses, and obviously the county college off to the west. So it is a very mixed use area. The surrounding land uses, as I mentioned, the blue areas there to the west are the college property. To the south and east are a couple of cemeteries there, and then the purple is industrial across the road. For future land use designation, this is designated for residential. As we mentioned, after the life of the project, once it is decommissioned, it can either revert back to agriculture, or if it is deemed more appropriate for residential at that time, it is designated for that use. The staff plat review committee did review the site plan. That is when the wetland buffer was pointed out, as well as the required half right-of-way dedication. So the applicants have made modifications to the site plan along the way to comply with those requirements. So the site plan is satisfactory, at least moving forward. It will be reviewed in further detail during the building permitting process. And I did just want to mention, as far as the 10-foot drive around the site, we haven't seen that requested on any other sites. Typically, the fire districts just want to see 20 feet of clear access in which to get around between the fencing and the panels themselves. So this is more typical of what we've seen, is where the drive just goes to the equipment pads. I haven't heard anything from the fire district as far as their request for that 10-foot drive. But that is something that obviously the applicants could discuss with them if that is something that would be required. But again, as they mentioned, that will drive the impervious surfaces up as well if that is required. And I think that's
And could put them over the limit, that 1.5 increase in
Correct.
impervious surface.
Correct.
So that
It could trigger
doing one
detention,
thing could
yeah.
trigger a negative in another.
Yes.
What is the land use designation that Crystal Lake has for this area, Kim?
Crystal Lake. They have it designated as agricultural, rural residential.
Any board members have questions for Kim? Okay, then I also want to ask, so like Mr. Schnabel was talking about the road and it's on a higher level, you know, a higher elevation than where the wetland is. And so that would be handled in stormwater, correct? So that there would not be any more drainage going off into that?
Right, the Water Resources Division will review that in detail during the permitting process.
And then also, I was, the NRI report, looking at, I don't know if you can bring that up as far as floodplains and that sort of thing.
The
Flood
NRI.
zones, yeah, there was a photo. A gentleman asked about floodplains on the site. And that's the job of the Soil and Water Conservation District to do in their reporting. I'm just seeing FEMA floodplain, I don't see a flood.
Yeah, they've indicated
Way.
that there is no 100-year floodplain present on the parcel, and no previous flooding on the parcel. There is a historic flood zone designated just south of the parcel. I can bring that back up on the site plan. So if you can see on this slide, just to the south of the parcel, there's kind of a faint green shading, kind of toward the central area there. That is historic flood zone, but there is not any designated on the parcel in question itself. If staff, the Water Resources Division requires a floodplain study, that could be a requirement. If there is any question about the, whether there is any actual flood hazard there, but not according to the maps.
Okay, and that's something that staff would look at then in the permitting
Correct.
process? Okay. So at this time, if there's no other questions from the board, we'll move to comments on the members of the public. And again, you can come up to the microphone, identify yourself, and you have 3 minutes to give whatever comments you would like for or against this petition.
Yeah, hi, Mark Hanson again. I live at the adjacent property to the north, 829 Richfield Road. I have approximation of the drain tiles running through this property, if anybody's interested. I can give you these.
There will be a drain tile, have to be a drain tile, full
Well,
delineation done.
I understand it, but you can at least see what we're talking about in general. I might be 5 feet off one way or the other, but not significantly. Most of that service runoff to the east runs down to my pond. So I'm involved with about maybe a third to a half of that runoff goes to my pond. That pond is tiled to that 16-inch main indirectly. So that also goes to Crystal Lake. So any of that runoff that goes into the pond goes to Crystal Lake. There's a 16-inch main that runs through the property. That should be addressed. And I'm not saying the damage, I'm not concerned about damage as much as I'm concerned of, those tiles pick up anything on the surface. Any nasties on the surface, into the tile, into Crystal Lake. So that's what I'm really concerned about. And I find it interesting that the Solar Institute is the one that's telling me my property values won't drop. That's a really interesting fact. It's really a silly concept. My property values will drop, being adjacent. And I have quite a bit of frontage against you guys. And I would say probably 15% conservatively, maybe more. It's a nice chunk of change for a guy like me. I already talked about the life of the system. And I think Crystal Lake Watershed obviously has been contacted, because this really, really affects them. Jim is right, Jim Heisler's right. This is a pretty important piece of property. Ridgefield area, all drains down through and right into the North Shore. That's where most of your water comes from the lake. So I think all that really needs to be addressed with the watershed district. and a lot of water districts, actually. And I find it curious that the watershed district has virtually no interest in farm tiles. I mean, they can't even provide you a map, and yet they're overly concerned about the runoff. Well, that McHenry County's, this side of McHenry County is a gravel pit. Why do you think they want to dig gravel pits? Why is everyone looking for, anything that gets through the topsoil goes right through the bank run. And that bank run is where those tiles run. So that stuff's all getting mainlined. If there's any problem, even if it's leaching from zinc off the posts, that all mainlines to Crystal Lake. So, and I think they got enough problems now with zebra mussels and weeds and all kinds of other things. So that's kind of all I had to say. My family's been farming it since 1928, too. I mean, we owned that since 1928, and there was a farmer on it before us, and been farming that a long time.
The wife now. Okay. Remember that I asked, by the way, my name is Mabel Hansen, I'm so sorry, I'm the neighbor. Remember that I asked you if anything is going to change our lives? Yes, that's what I said. So, first of all, let me tell you that it doesn't make too much sense. I know you're funding mostly with the government and all the disadvantages, but weather-wise, there's no sense to put a solar farm in Crystal Lake because Crystal Lake is below the U.S. average of sunny days. We get more snow than the U.S. average, and the temperatures are lower, and the precipitation days are more. So, a productive solar farm, I agree with this gentleman over there. It doesn't make sense that you're going to destroy a good farm land, instead of using a brown abandoned land. It's kind of a sacrilege. And it's like killing a dog because I want a cat. Doesn't make sense, but it's just me, of course. Then you're going to destroy the fauna and the flora that is around those cornfields. Yes, these are going to change. So it's like putting braces on the countryside. If your teeth are good, don't touch them. It's fine. They have a presentation to say, so I have to visualize everything for everybody. And also the metals that they run in the panels, that we believe is a high risk of leaking and contaminating the waters. And I believe, yes, our houses are going to be reduced. The value of houses are going to be reduced because of that. This is what I had to say. There is a lot of unknown factors, and I think we have. Illinois supposedly is a farmland, is very big. It doesn't have to be in our project. Just thank you.
Anyone else want to make a statement? Okay, well, I'm going to label this exhibit from the neighbor as exhibit number 2 and have that in the file. So we only have 5 people. Do you want to make a comment, sir?
I make a comment, and I got one photo that I would really like to show. I don't know how we can do an exhibit, but yes, no.
I think it's pretty hard to do.
How many acres is it? How many acres floods there?
If you want to come up here, you have 3 minutes to make a comment. You
Ugh.
can talk about it if you want to.
Well, Dave Behrens again, landowner directly to the south. We own about 60, 65 acres directly south of there. But as I said, biggest problem we have is the runoff of the water. On the slide where it says subject water, all that water comes down to here and then goes all the way to the south. We all know that an inch of rain on an acre of land is roughly 26,000 gallons of water. Multiply that times 4 or 5 inch rain, and what do we have? I mean, I got a picture to show you what happens if you guys would be willing to see it.
Show it around the table.
That greenish area actually does flood out in the spring before the frost comes out.
What you're saying, and we're going to place like
Yep.
this.
that's looking directly from the north to the south.
Was there a date on this?
That would have been done in
What kind of towers?
June of, or the end of May of 21.
Those
There's
two-
no way we can save this for other people to look at. I can't admit
Couldn't
that.
you
that's-
Can you email it to
Yeah,
us?
yeah, we could,
Email a picture.
yeah.
Well,
You
the
email
email,
it
but
to
it's
us,
after
we
the
just-
fact, because the hearing is today.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, testimony is today, so we can't,
All right, thank you.
yeah.
Dave, what is that, about 10 acres, 8 acres? of flood?
We've had to replant between 8 to 12.
Okay,
Yes,
sir,
ma'am.
so there's only 5 members here today. You need 5 for a positive recommendation. You had things you wanted to talk about with Crystal Lake and the watershed. Would you like to delay a vote until you can have that? Because we'll be placing conditions on your petition and, if you want to have those from Crystal Lake, if you want to talk to them, or do you want to just proceed with what we have? It's your call. You get to choose what you want to do. But you need 5 positive votes to go before the county board.
I think we can proceed. We've been working with Crystal Lake, so we can work with them before the county board.
Before the county board meeting?
Yeah, I think we'd like to proceed.
Okay. Okay, so at this time, we will close the hearing and we'll open the voting portion of the hearing. We have some conditions proposed by staff. Go over those. Number 1, the conditional use shall have no time limit but may expire as outlined in section 16.040.H, expiration of approved conditional use permits, and per section 16.56.030.PP.4 and 5, abandonment and decommissioning in the Unified Development Ordinance. Number 2, site development shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan received June 1, 2023, labeled as drawing C1.3. Number 3, decommissioning plan shall be applicable in part as well as whole. If any portion of the solar farm facility ceases to perform its intended function for more than 12 consecutive months, that portion of the solar farm facility shall be decommissioned in compliance with all the terms of the decommissioning plan. Number 4, engineer's cost estimate of decommissioning plan shall be approved by the zoning enforcement officer prior to construction/building permit issuance. Financial surety in the manner approved by the McHenry County State's Attorney's Office shall be executed in the amount of 150% of the engineer's estimate prior to issuance of construction/building permit. Revised engineer's cost estimate shall be submitted in 10-year intervals, beginning on the date the solar farm facility is commissioned. Number 5, no structures excluding power lines for interconnection may exceed 15 feet in height. Power lines shall be placed underground to the maximum extent possible. Number 6, lighting shall be installed and maintained in accordance with 16.60.020 exterior lighting of the McHenry County Unified Development Ordinance. Number 7, all site development shall comply with the Stormwater Management Ordinance. A McHenry County stormwater management permit shall be secured prior to construction. Any damaged drainage tile shall be repaired at the expense of the petitioner and in a manner satisfactory to the Water Resources Division Manager. Number 8, a detailed landscape plan illustrating compliance with required landscape screening standards shall be approved by the zoning enforcement officer prior to issuance of construction/building permit. Number 9, the solar facility shall be planted with a low-profile native prairie species, using a mix appropriate for the region and soil conditions as prescribed by the Water Resources Division Manager. These plantings shall be maintained for the life of the solar facility. Number 10, Prior to construction, the operator shall prepare a landscape monitoring and maintenance plan to ensure the establishment and continued maintenance of the native prairie species, all installed landscape screening, and all existing vegetation that provides required landscape screening. Number 11, fencing shall be provided in compliance with the National Electrical Code as applicable. The use of barbed wire is prohibited. Setting fence posts in concrete is prohibited, except for gate posts and where otherwise required for stability. Number 12, prior to construction, the operator shall enter into an agricultural impact mitigation agreement with the Illinois Department of Agriculture as required by that department. Number 13, to minimize soil disturbance and impacts to groundwater infiltration, solar panels shall have driven pile foundations or ground screw anchors. If the facility is within 1,000 feet of an inhabited residence, pile foundations shall be installed with a hydraulic pile hammer or similar sound attenuating process as compared to an impact-driven hammer, unless not feasible due to environmental or geological conditions. Number 14, all requirements of the McHenry County Unified Development Ordinance 16.56.030.pp shall be met or exceeded unless specifically amended by this conditional use permit. Number 15, all other federal, state, and local laws shall be met. Do we have any additional conditions proposed by the board or staff?
I do. I feel that out of consideration for Crystal Lake, we need to at least consider their suggestions for conditions, and so I would make a motion for each one for purposes of that discussion. So I'll start with the first one. Inspection manholes shall be placed on the property line at the upstream and downstream ends of the main drain tile that runs directly through the property.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Discussion.
I do not feel that I have the expertise to talk on this topic at all. I'm just going to put my faith into the county to see through all these details. But because Crystal Lake is is considerably concerned about this, I did want to bring it up.
Okay, I have a question regarding that. So in the wetland, or when the tile survey is done, how do they determine like what's a main tile? I mean, being a farmer, I'm just thinking, well, what are they going to determine is the main tile? There's not just one, there could be tile going on through that property.
Right, I probably would defer to our Water Resources Division for questions on drainage tiles. We've seen a number of surveys come in with them scattered throughout the property, so I'm not sure exactly. I have seen something similar to what the gentleman in the audience provided as far as the routing of the drain tiles. I would imagine that historical documentation with the county probably does reference specific tiles as the main ones.
So when the delineation is done, for the tile, the survey is done, I mean, for us to, I just wonder about this condition, if it's enforceable, if they can even determine what that is.
It probably could be. It might just need to be more specified as far as the location on the site. It appears that there's two main tiles that go straight down through the property, so I'm not sure which one they were referring to in their proposed condition.
Okay.
I don't know how else you can specify that.
Okay, Mr. Cozen.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And coming from that neighborhood of Crystal Lake, I would more so forward on for consideration both documents as they came across our threshold at the same time, meaning the note of Crystal Lake, which came from today, as well as this information, this map. There are, in some ways, contradictory information, meaning what is an inspected manhole? Is it something that is as small as 3-4 inches across, or one that you could actually climb down and put some type of camera. I'd rather have people who do this on a daily basis make the judgment on the information that is provided and take it from there as a point of access. There have been a number of analogies about throwing the baby out of the bathwater, and this may be one where we might impose a condition and do more jeopardy to the transport of water through this area. And we'd rather see this just be forward on to that appropriate regulatory body.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Maybe, I might suggest that instead of voting on each one of these individuals, to echo what Mr. Kozer just commented, we don't have the expertise nor the answers to them, that maybe we have one single additional conditional use that would state something like, with regard to the concerns of the Crystal Lake letter of June 24th, that further negotiation with regard to these specific issues be undertaken by the petitioner.
I did consider that, Don, but they're pretty diverse when you look at them. There's 3 completely different things that are suggested. And I think each of the only one that really doesn't merit our consideration, I think, is the fence, the fabric wrapped fence. And since I don't feel that we can make conditions for the fire department or for Crystal Lake watershed, I think maybe your suggestion is correct. Maybe I should amend my motion to say what did you say? To confer with Crystal Lake on these matters?
A requirement that the petitioner further negotiate with the City of Crystal Lake with regard to resolution of these 3 issues.
I will amend my motion to that.
I'll second.
Thank you.
So the condition has been amended, the motion to add a condition is amended to that the petitioner shall further negotiate with Crystal Lake regarding their proposed conditions presented this morning.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I should mention, I just wanted to point out as far as the fence, if the fabric is not approved as part of the conditional use, I don't believe that would be allowed because it is a privacy fence then, and then you've
That
got
was my
setback
sticking
issues
point
and
right
everything.
there.
So if the city is saying that they want that, it would have to be approved under this, otherwise they'd have to come back for a variance or something to allow that. Otherwise, you can just choose to mention the other 2 recommended conditions if you wanted to ignore that, because they're also proposing a fixed not farm fence, I believe, right, an agricultural fence, and they're mentioning a chain link fence in there, which I think is usually not preferred. So I don't know if you want to get into the fence business with this.
Yeah,
but-
I wasn't in agreement with that suggestion at all, so.
Madam Chairman, may I comment, please?
Sure.
I'm going to just lay everything on the table right now. Number 1, I think that request number 2 is something that I could never vote for or agree to. I think it may not be the good idea that Crystal Lake thinks it is to make that a chain link fence with fabric wraparound barrier on it. I think that would draw more attention to the project and cause more problems than an agricultural fence. Remember, the number 3 comment on the 10-foot wide drive, that should be a non-starter from day one. We can't have that much impervious surface and start paving roads with compacted gravel in an area that's obviously wet and low and has drainage issues already, not to mention You know, as far as the drain tiles are concerned, I can understand item 1 with the inspection manual. It makes perfect sense if this drawing that we've been given from one of the local folks that lives there is actually a 16-inch drain tile. That's more than, you know, clay farm tile or PVC spiral pipe that you see getting installed off of a truck. So I could understand that, but I agree that we shouldn't be dictating the terms. There needs to be some negotiation, but if you want to make a condition allowing for that fence, I would not vote for it. And if you want to make a condition allowing for 10-foot wide driveways throughout the site, I wouldn't vote for that either.
Yeah.
So that's just where I stand for everyone's edification.
I kind of agree with Kurt. I would not support number 2 or 3 either.
Right.
So maybe we just do the revised condition for number 1, if we're agreed on that.
For them to work with Crystal Lake to negotiate these 3 issues.
Correct.
Yes.
All 3 or just
No,
number
no,
1?
just number one.
Just number 1, they don't want the other 2.
No.
Okay.
And my comments are that I just think we got this late, and I think the petitioner says they will continue to work with Crystal Lake, and before this goes before the county board, if there was something then that they decided and the county board could add that condition, but I'm just not comfortable adding these conditions at this time without, you know, our staff looking at this and saying this is doable or this is good or bad. I'm just not comfortable adding that condition number 1 even to.
I agree.
I agree as well. I just felt that because this was given to us, we needed to consider it on the record.
Okay, so the motion is that the petitioner further negotiate with Crystal Lake regarding their proposed conditions presented this morning. That's the way you want it to stay.
I
Or
believe that's.
withdraw the motion.
Or withdraw the motion for the conditional use, for the extra conditional use, or the extra condition. You want us to vote on it, or you want to just withdraw it?
For them to negotiate with Crystal Lake is the motion.
Yes.
I think maybe we should just withdraw it. We've discussed it. We've all decided that it isn't something that we feel we can do or that we would even want as a condition. So I think that, you know, I am going to withdraw that motion.
Okay. Are there any other proposed conditions? So at this point then, I would entertain a motion on the conditions that have been presented. It would be 1 through 15.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Smolinski. Do we
I'll
have a
second.
second? Second by Ms. Gardner to approve these conditions. I'll call for the vote. Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Mr. Smolinski?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so the conditions are approved, 5-0. Then I would entertain a motion for request for the conditional use.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Gardner, and again, let me go through this. This is application 2023-003, the applicant Surya Powered LLC, a conditional use permit to allow for a commercial solar energy facility. So it's been moved by Ms. Gardner, seconded by Mr. Schnabel. Discussion, Ms. Gardner.
This is a request for a solar facility in an area that is apparently a sensitive area as far as water. I am encouraging, in fact, I would really strongly encourage you to continue to work with the watershed people on this and the stormwater people. Of course, you'll have to. As far as the site itself, it is farmed right now. I believe that any runoff from these panels will not change the watershed or the water quality or the water amount going into the watershed. Unless, some unforeseen thing happens and breaks the glass on all of these panels, then yes, there might be a problem. But as far as, the rain is the rain. What comes down, comes down. It's gonna go here, it's gonna go there, it's all gonna go down into the ground, whether it hits the panel or not. And I think in some ways, the panels are a little safer because there is no extra materials coming off of these things. It's just going to be water on it, water running off, water into the ground without leaching anything from these panels and getting into the water. Whereas farming does add things to the soil and does change the soil in some respects. This property is pretty far away from everything. As far as real estate values, I would like to point out that the SEIA is a nonprofit solar energy company that supports solar farming, so I really can't consider that a credible source for their studies. I believe it's going to be pretty biased in favor of solar. We have heard of different studies from different companies coming before us with all different results. Some say they add to your property value, some say they detract from your property value. It all depends on where they come from. I don't know that any of them are completely unbiased or completely credible, so I can't even go there. All in all, I feel that this property is avoiding the areas of problems with the wetlands, and that you are compliant with a lot of the things that are needed to make this a success and to be a good neighbor for this area. So I am in favor. Thank you.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes, for the benefit of everyone who's talked today and is concerned about this, I'd just like to say a couple of things. These solar farm projects started by and large a couple of years ago. We've reviewed dozens of them by now. First thing to bear in mind is many of them will never be built, or if they are, it might be years down the road. The state of Illinois is subsidizing a lot of this stuff, and they're highly encouraging it from the governor on down, which is why we've got these petitioners here and petitioners in the past that have come before them many, many times, and more that will be coming in the future. The way the state laws are currently, if a petitioner meets all the requirements, they really cannot be denied their application unless it's for good, legitimate reasons that are covered. The state has a very specific code. They came in January, superseded the one that McHenry County had. So if you're saying, well, there's not much we can do, you're basically right. Anything that might be changed would happen more at the county board level if we vote to approve this. That's the ultimate authority. We're just a recommending body. Did they come in? Did they make the rules? Were concerns raised? Yes, they were. And I just want to say one other thing, not to belabor this, but when we as a body initially started looking at these solar farms, we and residents and subdivisions near some of these proposed projects were very much concerned with the whole impervious surface aspect of this, because it was viewed like, well, if the panels are laid flat, if they're passive, then you get rained on, and if they're at an angle, is it going to come off harder? A determination was made by the authorities that be. They don't consider solar panels to be impervious surface. They say it all runs off at the same volume in a given area, but the claim is then made, and I don't know if it's true or not, but the claim is made because it's not now row crop, it's now this prairie mixture. The idea is as follows, that the prairie mixture is going to eventually get that deep root, rejuvenate the land, and absorb more water than row crops would. That's the argument that's being made. The other argument that's being made is we could do this project and preserve the land for 30, 40, 50 years. Or possibly, let's start developing a subdivision there, and you have to think in those terms too. Would you rather live next to 100 houses or the solar farm, which is probably a quieter neighbor? So I'm just mentioning that, you don't have to agree with that, but that's been the thinking, and I will support the petition at this point.
Mr. Smolinski?
Yes, I believe that the petitioner has met all the requirements for approval by this body under the McHenry County UDO, and I will be supporting the petition.
Mr. Cozen?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In addition to the petitioner's actions fulfilling the requirements, I also want to commend staff for trying to keep up with the information as it is unfolding almost on a daily basis, both from a regulatory standpoint as well as a technical standpoint, and I hope they appreciate that my education has been enhanced immensely throughout this process. But nothing in this path shows that this is going in the wrong direction, and if anything, McHenry County benefits from its regulatory structure for stormwater management, for its ability to sustain pollinators, as well as the interest it has in keeping an agricultural activity. And for those reasons, I'll be supporting this petition.
I also support the petition. I think it meets the land use plan. This county has an adopted land use plan that supports renewable energy, and this meets that. It also, I like the fact that, you know, even though it's almost a 5 megawatt facility, there's only, you know, like 250, 300 feet. That's right along Ridgefield Road. So, and that's all screened, and it's far away from, there's only like one resident, you know, right across the street. So it's really a long ways away from homes, and it won't be so visible from Ridgefield Road. Crystal Lake has this listed on their land use plan as, let's see what it is. Agricultural, rural, residential. And it is in a sensitive aquifer recharge area. And so impervious surface is limited there. It's also in a class 3 groundwater recharge because of the Lake in the Hills Fen. But I think something like this is so much better than other homes then for that recharge area, in that the pollinator species does provide a way for that groundwater to recharge, the aquifer to recharge, and it maintains the prime agricultural soil. So at the time, if and when this solar farm is removed, that it can go right back to being agriculture and producing food for our county's residents. So I think it's met the standards in our ordinance for conditional use, the general standards, and those for solar use facility, and I will be voting yes for this request. So I will call for the vote. Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Cozen?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Mr. Smolinski?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. This will go to the county board with a 5-0 vote approving the request. Now also on our agenda, we have, we need to elect a vice chair. I would entertain a motion.
I would like to recommend Vicki Gardner for the position of vice chairman. Vicki has long experience on this board and wise counsel and would be an excellent choice.
And I'd like to second that, since
Wow.
we seem on this side of the aisle to vote in unison.
I have an unusual procedure. I'm going to third that. Ms. Gardner's got a very level head and opening and questioning mind, and a nice personality, and she would make an excellent vice chairman.
Wow. So humbled.
Well, can I fourth it? Because I enjoy working with Vicki. We've worked on the zoning board for a long time, and I think she'll make an excellent vice chair. I'll enjoy working with her in that. So I will ask for the vote. Mr. Smolinski,
Yes.
Mr. Cozen,
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel.
Yes.
And I will vote yes, and Vicki, I don't know if you have a vote or not.
I'm not sure if I do, but.
You can vote for yourself.
I vote yes.
I'll vote yes, because otherwise we have two that aren't here and might vote no.
Okay, so that motion is approved 5-0. Thank you, everybody. At this time, our meeting is adjourned.
All right.
We'll get you guys new nameplates.